Okay, today my goal is to help you understand one particular interpretation of Oedipus the king, or Oedipus Tyrannus, and you'll see why Tyrannus and not really Rex or king, because Tyrannus did not mean tyrant as we think of tyrant today. One of its main meanings, certainly for this particular play, is that he was not an it wasn't because he inherited the kingship. What I'm going to try to do, and then I'm going to hope to do it as systematically as possible in a short time, and then I hope I'll have time to tell you what I've been trying to do. These are the three things you should do when you're trying to present something. Tell them basically what you're going to try to achieve, then try to achieve it, and then tell them as much as possible how much of it have I been able to achieve. Well, first of all, let me just tell you about the fly sheet so that you won't be too worried about it, and what I'm going to be trying to do primarily in the lecture. I'm going to try to read Oedipus the King within its conceptual context, the context of how the people of Athens at this time, how they generally understood the world that they lived in terms of main categories. The cosmos representing that which is beyond human power, so nature itself, the universe itself, the gods, how they understood the cosmos, and the divine, because it was the same, primarily they were not separate. How they understood human society, the polis, to see what that came to mean, and how it plays a significant role in the understanding of the cosmos, the understanding of the polis, how essential it is for us if we try to do this work with any sort of empathy, not reading it in terms of what we think today, but trying as much as possible, knowing we have our own ways of, everyone has his own perspective, but trying as much as possible to read the story within the context of how the people who first were receiving this work, and therefore the person giving us the work, Sophocles, what was the framework within which this play was taking place? What's happening to Oedipus within the context of the belief in the cosmos, the universe, the gods, within the context of how important the polis, human society, human community really, you might want to think of it as human community, the polis came to mean as a philosophical concept, and Apollo, the god Apollo, is the main god of this particular work. But what Apollo came to represent in terms of you and me as human beings, how should we live our life at its best possible level? So once you see how something of what we can try to understand of the context as well as we can, having understood these three main topics, then rereading, because hopefully first just read it and see what you think of it, but then as a scholar you need to do two things. You need to put yourself as much as possible in the context, and I call this empathy, getting out of your own self, seeing beyond your own nose and your own brain, and taking a look as much as possible, putting yourself in the place of the people who were first receiving this work, because we're not looking at it simply as literature or as something that came from the past. In CS, we look at these things in terms of their enduring message for you and me as human beings. And if they don't say anything to you and me as human beings, then we shouldn't be bothering you with it in a course like this on the general humanities issue. The rest of it will then be a development of an argument of a way of interpreting this text within these three conceptual points. For you to take a look at it, see how one way of interpreting this work can flow by someone who's hoping to put it within the context of the days. And then at the very last page, you have a kind of a conclusion, number of points about what you can try to understand from what I've been trying to tell you in this lecture, and if you read the stuff later, and with a few other items on the whole work. So I'm not going to try to be able to do everything I would like to do that are on these fly sheets. I'm going to try to focus on main points, hoping to get you to leave this work with some understanding of what critical thinking requires. It's not easy, it's costly, First, we have to get out of ourselves to be able to put ourselves in the place of the context and try to understand other human cultures and other human beings, not from our own perspective. To be the defense lawyer, we used to say in CS, you need to be you need to be able to present this work so that the people who really look into it and use it and would say, this is a good representation of what we were trying to say. And then you're qualified to do evaluation. So empathy and evaluation together make critical thinking. The evaluation means that you would then say, well, I read it differently. I read it in this way. Or evaluation can be, well, I find in this many things that still speak to me as a human being and to us as a human being. I would differ with this or that or this, etc. Or, best of all, you would say, well, I've gotten some things from it. I have some questions in my mind, have some things I think I disagree with. But most importantly, it's made me aware of a whole world of how humans may understand my human life, that I can now proceed to investigate much more seriously, so that by the time I am 50, if I follow Plato, I can claim wisdom of some serious sort. So, first of all, Oedipus, Tyrannus, because we will see he did not inherit the throne, he is quite right to comment and let us know that he was elected. So already this means that we are talking now about democracy. But the background, the cosmic background, so on that sheet, that first sheet, you have the three main topics, the cosmos, the polis, and Apollo. Let me say a little bit about this. The gods were seen now, the shift from the world of Gilgamesh, where there are many gods. They come into assembly, they agree on something, but then they don't bother to keep the agreement when Ea betrays the gods and gives away the secret to Utnapishtim. And had he not done that, we wouldn't even be here today. It was kind of a world of insecurity and chaos, and you never know quite what's happening. And we've shifted already from that world, from that atmosphere of insecurity and whimsicalness and capriciousness, and you never know what's going to happen. And look at what happened between Gilgamesh and Ishtar. If you think he was arrogant, she's the one who's arrogant. He tried to speak to her rationally, and because fadahni, she's like a spoiled brat. That's how the text is presenting her, right or wrong, I don't know. But that's the text we're reading, is presenting Ishtar as a spoiled brat. He's trying to reason with her. He's not being arrogant at all in any way. He's being very respectful, and he's telling her, look, I'll do whatever you like, but please don't let me marry you, because look what happened. Be rational. Look what happens to everybody who marries you. I don't want to do that, but I'll do whatever you want. She, Baba, Jarrasni, Fadahni, you send the bull of Heb, send Mabarif Shudu. Okay, this is symbolic of how these people have come to understand what is meant by the divine, what is meant by gods and goddesses. So take out of your own mind anything you may think of, philosophically, mystically, religiously, of the divine and what you think it is, and try to understand carefully what each culture is telling you about the divine. That the divine is getting in your way in Gilgamesh. The only one who does any good for humanity is Gilgamesh. The only one who brings anything back and gives them, so they say that. The epic tells you that. From beginning to end, they're telling you he's the only one who's ever brought us all this knowledge and all this goodness, but at the price, at the cost of his own life. And that's the theme I want to develop. I want you to see the tragic hero, not just now in Oedipus, but in Gilgamesh, who's, as soon as he's aware, at first he's not aware, he just does what nature has given him to do. He's powerful. He does what everything does. Nature, he's following nature. As soon as he is aware, as soon as his consciousness now factors in other humans, that's the symbolism of having Enkidu, of someone equal, a friend. Now you can take a look and see what the greatness of this epic may be telling us, if we read it in this way, that basically as soon as he becomes aware, he does the best thing. So you can't blame him for something he doesn't know what he's doing. You can't call him arrogant with a goddess who wants to enslave him and then get rid of him. All right? This is the humanization process. This is you and me, Gilgamesh. Therefore, he's the first modern man. There's no first modern man, neither Odysseus nor this. You see, that's reading back into the ancient literature, our own prejudices and beliefs. These are human beings like you and us. living at their times, in their context, facing challenges that are eternal, that we face still today. The question of death, the question of friendship, the question of humanization. What does it mean to be more of a human? The question of empathy, of feeling with others. The question of being scientifically curious and exact. The only reason, the main reason now, rationally, that he goes after Utnapishtim is because, and he risks his life and he sacrifices himself and he becomes unrecognizable as the great Gilgamesh, is because he wants to make the scientific experiment, not just accept, no matter who tells him. Why should he accept something stupid or something that doesn't make any sense? He's going to investigate. See, the hero in this literature is always the human, not the gods. Get out of your mind that somehow you should read these gods and goddesses as the heroes. Right? The heroes in this literature is the human being. The focus on you and me, what we need to understand so that we can do our best to give meaning to our own human life and to do something for humanity. That's the tragic message in Oedipus the King, but it's not new. That message was there in Gilgamesh. That message is there in Homer's Odyssey, when Achilles, the great hero, all right, when he's visited in the underworld. I hope you've done it by now. I know at the beginning of the semester you may not have reached there, but Achilles, when he goes down to interview him, you see, this is discovering for yourself, not just what people tell you. Odysseus is now discovering, and we are discovering with him, as he goes down and meets Achilles, to see how tragic this hero is, Achilles. That he chose to have a short life, but with dignity, with excellence, according to that culture, rather than to have a long life and be like you and me, you know, the capitalist consumer society happiness and, you know, let's get the best out of life and all of this. No, he made a choice, all right? But what Homer challenges you and me in the Odyssey is by having Odysseus meet Achilles, Homer is challenging you and me. Is it worthwhile to be a hero and to sacrifice yourself the way Achilles did, all right? And so he's making us think. He's not telling you one thing or another. Great literature doesn't tell you one thing or another. It opens up your mind to think about human issues and eternal issues that face us as humans. Why am I telling you that Homer does not want you to conclude from the meeting with Odysseus that it's not worth it? Just as the person of the people who presented the Epic of Gilgamesh do not want you to conclude Siduri's advice is the right advice. Now you've become a mature, existentialist, atheist human being in the 20th century. All right? Bravo, we'll clap for you, all right? That's not, you see, this is reading back into ancient literature, things that are not there. They are investigating, they're seeking knowledge, they're trying to get awareness of what's happening, and they do the best they can with their limitedness, but using their reason as much as they can, being as scientific as they can be. So meeting Achilles in the underworld has the effect on you and me hearing this story, and on Odysseus himself. Odysseus does not change a bit, nor does Gilgamesh change a bit when he hears the advice for how to get away from what's happening. Or now Oedipus in this play, when he hears the advice about how not to seek the truth. They insist on seeking the truth. This is why philosophy, meaning the love of wisdom, was understood to be something basic in our own humanity. Philosophy is not becoming a philosophy teacher or a philosophy writer. The love of wisdom is meant to be understanding that you and I have within us a desire for truth, a desire for wisdom. All right? Unfortunately, as they will say in many ways, we also have a lust for power, a greed. All right? And so this is the challenge of human life. We have reason. We have the challenge of trying to seek truth and seek wisdom and help ourselves and help humanity. But we have something that the driving force against us is the horror of lukewarmness, of Siduri. You know, give up seeking something. Don't go for the scientific evidence. Just believe what we're telling you. He goes and he meets Utnapishtim, and Utnapishtim turns out to be a lazy slob. And he says, what, you? I expected to find some great hero, meaning there's no reason why things happen. So this is a culture in which the human has rationality, but the cosmos doesn't function rationally. Ishtar is not functioning rationally. She's like a spoiled brat. Yalla ba'at za'ranak u dabru. You send out your Range Rovers and you hope God will let them club the guy out of existence. All right, that's the, you know, if you don't get this stuff out of literature, you're missing a lot. It's great stuff. When we did this as a play, Gilgamesh, it was wonderful. The more we discovered in trying to put it into actual presentation and using the text we have, not imposing on it some other thing, we were able to see even more in a theatrical production what perhaps the people were trying to tell us. When Odysseus comes out of the underground, he doesn't change a bit. He continues to seek the heroic ideal. And his homecoming is not because he wants to be with Mama and Baba and that. His homecoming is the main topic of the Odyssey. The nostos, homecoming, being where you belong. Therefore, he rejects Calypso, his offer of immortality, because that's not where he belongs. He belongs at home in Ithaca, to have order there, and to have let the whole cosmos be in better order, have the society be in order. Order is the order of the day. Order is beauty. Order is goodness, from Homer. Why do we have in Book 8, lines 579 to 580, the first line of Homer, if you go back to the Odyssey, when they ask Ammo Odysseus the question of why is there so much misery in human life? You see, it's not a new question when you ask it today. Why is there so much misery in human life? Well, Homer's only answer that he could give was his honest answer. Well, you know, because for him now, the most important thing is beauty and art and order, an aesthetic view of what life is all about. Well, it must be because, you know, we can have epics come out of this. Today we can have movies, we can have, you know, all this stuff. You see, it's worth going through this misery because we can get out of it the wonders of literature and art and theater and music and opera and all of this. So to understand the world that you're reading in this early literature from as much as possible, trying to understand it from its own point of view, empathetically, is you must understand these two things first of all. The gods are not looked upon as models. The humans, the great human, is looked upon as the model. So Gilgamesh represents the best you can ever hope to see and be as a human being. All right? Odysseus is the best that you can hope to see and be as a human being. When you come to Oedipus, Antigone, all of them images of Prometheus. This is the model for the human being, not the gods. Zeus gives more evil than good, says Homer, if you read the whole of the Odyssey. All right? In this work you're going to be reading now, he goes to Apollo to get help. And the only help he gets from Apollo is to tell him, oh, you're going to have a horrible future, you know, blah, 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 you know, horror story. Doesn't tell him who his true parents are. Now we come into, from Gilgamesh to Odysseus to Oedipus. You know, Odysseus wants to be home, so he's ready to risk his life for order, because that's the main thing, for beauty. When things are out of order, they're ugly. The whole universe is tilting. Right? Homecoming is not to be at home with his wifey and his children, and you know, what a mediocre thing. You know, whereas, you know, Gilgamesh was a great. Well, neither of them represents modern man in any way. They represent the human in the common things that we have all through history as human beings. The challenges we face in different cultures at different times with different information. So Odysseus comes out and he go on risking his life all the time. He doesn't come out with the thing, look, Achilles has said, I would rather be alive and the serf of a serf of a serf, you know, the slave of a slave of a slave, etc. You're giving you a symbol, an image of being the most mediocre and the least of humans. I don't want to be the greatest or the best or anything, as long as I'm alive. Well, he comes out, he continues to risk his life, and he goes on doing exactly the same thing because he has a higher motive. In this culture, the higher motive is to be where you belong. Know thyself becomes a major commandment, if you like, when you get now to, you can see it in when you get to the 5th century here in Athens. Apollo, the third thing on your sheet here, you have the cosmos, you have the polis, you have the Apollo. Know thyself, meaning know who you are. That's how you should be living, seeking more. Seeking to know more of the truth about yourself. Don't just accept cliches, no matter who gives them to you. And certainly never accept something that seems irrational. Oh, you can never fight cancer, Mahek. La habibi, we'll fight cancer. All right? So you can never have immortality. La, we're going to seek immortality until, and we're not going to accept any barrier as a human. That's the heroic, tragic aspect of the early literature, which I'm trying in my lecture today to kind of link a little bit the different things you take, because soon you should be moving into, because this is 205, you do so quickly, but you're going to be moving into the rationalists in Athens, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and they're going to tell you the same thing about Apollo and about the polis, but they're going to tell you the tragedians have missed it on the main aspect of the cosmos, the gods, the world itself. And they will tell you all these images that you're getting from Homer and the tragic poets, they've been understood incorrectly. They should be understood rationally as rational realities, all right, that exist spiritually, intellectually, and they exist, and your mind can discover them. And therefore, don't worship things that are much worse than yourself. Worship, if you're going to worship, then he sort of purifies the gods. And there you start to get the notion of the divine as being perfect and good and all of that stuff. So wait until you reach the literature that gives you that view, all right? Before you start to read into this ancient literature any views of the divine other than the ones they're giving you. Look at Ishtar, look at Ea. Who gives the promise at the very end of the Gilgamesh story? Why they choose Ishtar, the least reliable, the least trustworthy person, to give a sort of a promise, but a very vague promise. I'll remember these days. What does it leave you with? Ya Habibi, who knows? There may come at any moment some sort of catastrophe. It's going to wipe us all out. We never know why. We never know what caused it. And there's no real, anything we can know to live a good life or a bad life, so we can have some kind of reward or some, know if there is an afterlife, if it's all just what the dream of Gilgamesh is, or is it something better? We're going to continue to investigate this question right into the 21st century. We're not going to stop it at Gilgamesh because he's not a modern man. Or we're not going to, then we come to Achilles, to Odysseus and decide, he's the first modern man. So now we should all model ourselves according to Odysseus. No. That's these are things to challenge us to think. All right? You see, everything we say, including what I'm telling you today, I meant to challenge you to think, not to just believe, blindly, no matter how it impresses you at first. There are things that you're supposed to think about and see how you proceed with it in life. So the cosmos then quickly is in this play now. These are just some of the gods that supposedly they will come to mean rational things, but right now they don't. Zeus gives more evil than good, and he represents justice. But what is justice? Justice is simply the impersonal order of the universe, which does not take into account anything of human intention, circumstances, or anything. In our story, Oedipus is fated to kill his daddy and marry his mommy. All right? This is an ancient legend. Sophocles is taking that legend now and reinventing it to present you with his rational, creative, poetic way of telling you that this is an alternative way of understanding that legend. Somehow pure fate. Fate and fatalism are not the same thing. Fate means something different in every book you're going to read. Be careful. Pride means something different in every book you read. Arrogance means something different in every book you read. Don't think you know the meaning of it immediately. You'll miss the richness of how humans have understood human life. Basically, this guy, the gods are basically the keepers of the order and the beauty and the goodness of the universe. That's all there. But are they themselves qualitatively any better than an excellent human being? That's another matter. Zeus and all of these gods, they fight with their groups, in the Trojan War. And Apollo, when Oedipus comes and tries to get some help from him, he says, look, help me understand, what's this fate I'm hearing, that I have to kill my father, marry my mother? He doesn't give him any help. He spurns me. When you're read the text. When he says, I went to Apollo, but Apollo spurned me, and he gave me like a horror story of my future. Now, he can be fatalistic and say, Wallah, Apollo, Bifam, he knows. I better hear him. I better listen to him. And, okay, I'll stay where I am. And, someday I'm going to be carrying my knife and maybe, by accident it'll kill my daddy. And, I'll keep my zipper open just in case. I mean, with my mommy, I don't know. But this is so silly, you see. And this is the kind of interpretations you get. What could you do in that situation? Because the whole story is about our blindness. We are so limited as human beings. But we do have reason. And this reason is limited. And it cannot see everything. But it's something. That's the best we can do. Let's use our reason. And this is the story of Oedipus. He's using his reason as best as he knows how to, with all of his blindness, with all of his moral weaknesses, like any human. Otherwise, he wouldn't speak to us. He's a human. He's you and me. Before we judge him, judge yourself. If you were in that situation, could you have done anything better to get two main topics, two main results in the tragic world? There are only two things that will give you happiness, that are worth living for. One is self-respect, dignity, seeking to know yourself more and more, and even if it's going to be something bad for you, but seeking the truth about yourself, knowing your limits, but doing your best with what you have. And balance is best, meaning whatever it is you're doing it in the best possible way, because balance is always the hardest thing to do. It's easier to be a coward or to be a rashful person. Aristotle will tell you when you get this whole view put into philosophy. It's most difficult to have courage. Courage means you have to balance between your fear and your confidence. It's much easier to have too much fear and be a coward. It's much easier to be rash if you're powerful like me and go jump over the balcony to show my girlfriend what a great man I had, and then you're stupid if you're on either way. Courage is the intelligent thing. Courage means to know at a given moment what I should do, from experience, of course, and from using my mind, but to get to know better and better how much confidence I should have so I don't have too much confidence, and how much fear so I don't have too much or too little fear. So balance is best, the second thing of Apollo. These are the two things. Seek to live your life in this way. All right? And this is what you will see retrospectively, if you wish, as one way of thinking. This is Gilgamesh, this is Odysseus, and this is now Oedipus. The three of these share, in fact, without having been codified in the other cultures yet, they are seeking the truth. They are philosophers. They are lovers of wisdom. They're seeking, they're not going to be a philosopher, but philosophy means the instinct in the human being to love wisdom, to seek truth. We stop doing that because we have our self-interest, we have our lust for power, and that's the challenge of life then and today. Nothing has changed much, but what you're seeing in this early stuff is the cosmos. They understood it in this way. It's simply the cosmos itself is divine. The cosmos itself is worshipped as one of the gods, and it's the only absolute God. The universe as such, with its given laws, so now this is the development from the world of Gilgamesh, it has laws. It's not just chaotic. When they agree, nobody can go against them. There's no Ea in the stories here, all right? Or the way Ishtar operates whimsically and like a spoiled brat, all right? You have order there. Each god has a definition, has a limitation. This is what Homer has done. Let me see if I have, yeah. This is from Herodotus, the first great historian. Homer and Hesiod created the genealogy of the gods. So he's giving meaning to all these gods that are being worshipped, all right, like in the world of Gilgamesh. He's now setting them and saying, no, 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 no. Our minds can understand them in a much more orderly way. So the world isn't as chaotic and insecure as what peoples like the Gilgamesh peoples thought the gods were. They gave them order by providing the gods with epithets, assigning them their functions and honors, clarifying their shapes. That's a good system. This is the heart of the scientific impulse that then comes into the world through this Greek view. This has nothing to do with religion. It's not science versus religion. All right, it's the Homeric view, which Aristotle then takes and puts it into the Aristotelian view, and it seems to be a very coherent one until you start getting much better instruments and much better possibilities, and then you get, the multiverse universe. You have much different pictures of the universe. But up to this time, and up to the times of the mid-20th century, this set the tone for human thought. And by giving it order, it gives the impulse to study it. Because if you're studying a world that's chaotic, why should you bother? But if this world is full of laws and it's, it's clear, and you can try to understand it in every way, humanly, that's the stuff of humanities, but even scientifically. Now you can really start to study it because it's lawful. And it may be difficult to discover it. If you're in the tragic world, the rationalistic world will give you more of an optimistic view of what reason can do. So it's created by, so these gods are created by a human. All right? The understanding of the gods. The gods were there and they were worshipped and there were sacrifices to them and human sacrifices and there was superstition and curse. The whole atmosphere of Oedipus the king is a curse mentality. He's cursed. He didn't do anything to deserve his fate. Something in the past had happened and the order was not reestablished then, but because the only concern of the cosmos and the gods is to set the order straight, somebody has to pay the price. Remember Gilgamesh and Enkidu? Somebody has to pay the price. Why not Gilgamesh? Why is it that Enkidu had to play, you see? So once again, you're going to get in the tragic world. Finally, there's no rationality that you can understand. There may be a rationality if you're a god and understand it all, but as a human, you can never understand it. And in fact, it seems more like it's against you than for you, but this is a challenge. Tragic does not mean pessimistic. Tragedy does not mean defeat. Tragedy means Prometheus, the victory over the gods. Only Prometheus gave fire to humans. The gods did not want to give fire for whatever reason. Can you imagine the world without fire? All right. Who gives good things? The human. From the Prometheus myth all the way through literature that you're looking in the tragic world. So the cosmos is like that. It's shared. No one is absolute. Homer is extremely logical in the use of the gods and goddesses as he orders them. He never lets a god go against the order of the universe. There's no Ea. There's no whimsical Ishtar. They all have a limit. They have to keep within their limit. Even Zeus, the greatest of the gods. Whenever in the Iliad, Zeus starts to do something for his favorites, because they all have favorites, which is not according to what's been, the givenness of the universe and the laws. Somebody, sometimes Athene, somebody else, will come and tell him, Zeus, if you do that, you're going to go against that. And Homer never allows Zeus to go against that, because this is his absolute. If you're looking for a god here in any monotheistic or philosophical sense, one absolute being, you won't find it here. It's the cosmos itself. The gods are simply parts of it, more powerful than you and me, immortal, more powerful, but limited. And that's why the first commandment of Apollo, know thyself, is know your limits. You'll discover your powers more easily, but discover your limits. And if you're discovering only your limits, that's also not balanced. If somebody's trying to break down your self-image from blah, blah, blah. But seek to know really where you are. Oedipus tells them, you've come to the right person at the beginning of this story, when they want to know who can help them from this plague that's destroying them. He tells them, you've come to the right person. I'm not sending out my wazir or my minister or something, to find out what you want. I've come because you can tell from my past, my history, this is descriptive. This is not arrogance. Arrogance is when you pretend to be something you're not. I've saved you from the Sphinx before. And so now, of course, you can trust me. You've come to a good source. He's not being proud. He's telling them the truth. Then read the rest of what Sophocles says about him. I'm suffering for you more than you're suffering for yourself. I'm not sleeping at night worrying about how to do all this, all right? So pride and arrogance are very buzzwords that we throw around a lot. Gilgamesh is not guilty. I'm telling you, you can disagree with me fully. He's not. The authors are not telling you he's arrogant. He's too powerful at the beginning. He's unbalanced. He doesn't, he has nothing to balance him. But as soon as he's balanced by Enkidu and he becomes able to be empathetic, he becomes empathetic. All right. The same thing with Oedipus. Oedipus is not going to accept this fate. He's not going to be fatalistic. Fatalistic is the mediocre response of any human being to what they are told is a limit, which does not agree, which the more they think about it, the more they experience, the more they mature, they cannot accept it. And so they're going to do their best. I'm not going to accept cancer is not going to be discriminated. I'm going to go on, all right? And so death, why should I accept that death is the last word, especially now by the 21st century? There's so many ways that people have claimed they've understood about how there is something beyond death. Well, at least look into them before you just make a statement that to be a modern man means to accept that there's no life after death. and to just want to be at home with your mommy and your daddy and your and that. These are the challenges of the sort of things we look at here. This is how Homer presents them. Zeus is trying to get Poseidon. The three of them share the cosmos. Zeus, the heavens, Hades, what happens to you after death, and Poseidon, the sea. And they are equal in rank to one another. They cannot interfere with each other. When Zeus tries to interfere with Poseidon, and if you've read the Odyssey, you've seen this already. Athene, when Athene comes home, I'm Odysseus. What does Odysseus tell her? Now you show up, baby. Where were you when I was, 10 years on the sea, suffering for this? He tells two things, very important. One, I cannot interfere with any other. See, order, you have to be in your place. Even the gods are orderly, and they have to be in their place. Athene cannot just go in there and try to be an Ea or an Ishtar, all right? She has to be what Homer has defined for her, the limit of Athene. So when Zeus tries to get Poseidon to do something he doesn't want to do, this is the response. No, great though Zeus is, this that he has said is too much. If he will force me, Poseidon, against my will, me who am his equal in rank, all right? There's no one great absolute God. Since we are three brothers born by Rhea and Kronos, so there are even gods before them that, Kronos, time, you see, when they there's no real answer to beginnings in the Greek stuff. The world is always there. The cosmos is eternal. It has always been there. You worship it. It is the most powerful thing. No one can go against it. All right? The third is Hades, Lord of the dead men. All was divided among us three ways, each given his domain. Each thing has your place. I, Poseidon, when the lots were shaken, drew the gray sea to live in forever. Hades drew the lot of the mists, and notice lots. Lots is your share, your qisma, your portion set for you. Earth and high Olympus are common to all three, therefore I am no part of the mind of Zeus. Let him in tranquility, and powerful as he is, stay satisfied with his third share. Habibi Zeus, you are limited. All right? It's impersonal. It's not made for you and me. So make sure you read these lines, and this is all on the web, by the way, and they're all on your sheets here, so do some work on for your own. Look into the text yourself. I'm focusing on the message of the play as Sophocles presents it to us. At the climax of the play, when he discovers that, he has killed his father and married his mother, no matter what he tried to do, what he does is, I'm going to use my reason as best as I can. This Apollo didn't even want to help me, he just made me more scared. Why should I follow him? I can at least make the experiment. Maybe I can get beyond such stupidity. Why should I be cursed just because something has happened in the past? I haven't done anything, and I'm not going to sit around waiting for the day when I kill my daddy, marry my mommy. I'm going to do the rational thing. I'm going to leave. And so he leaves. Now, what we know, of course, the audience knows, is that the gods, because they are the powerful and the fates that you can't change, in fact, whatever he does, he's going to kill his father, marry his mother. We know that. But the interest in the play is, what does the human do when fate seems to be so callous, so impersonal, not interested in what's happening to you? It just wants its system to work, Well, you as a human can rebel, Habibi, but rebel meaning here for something good, not rebellion so you can be the power, and then you can be corrupt instead of somebody else, But true revolutionism is true desire to give your life for something better for humanity. All right? This is the rebel instinct. The philosopher instinct, I'm going to seek the truth. I want wisdom. I want the truth, whatever it's going to cost me. And balance is best means I want to be an excellent human being. I want to do whatever I'm supposed to do in the best way. So if you're a student, I want to stay awake in a stupid CS lecture like this. I want to, do my best to learn from what I'm getting. I want to, I don't want to just, do what's going to make me happy. I want to make happiness as meaning doing the best that you can, so that you can be satisfied that you've done the best you can with all your limits, with all your that's true happiness in the tragic world, that having done your best. So when he finds out, he tries to run away, he winds up being attacked. Again, Range Rovers, motorcycles, they shove him off, and one guy comes to kill him. He's a great hero, so he kills everybody except for one person, because this is a story. And somebody has to come and report it. So one person, the second shepherd in the play, survives. But in self-defense, he kills the person whom he does not know who he is, doesn't know who the guy is. When you have some of these black Range Rovers coming by and trying to get in with you and push you off the road. You know, you shouldn't stop there and say, is this Zeus? Is this Poseidon? Is this Mabarif? Is this fate? Your natural response is, what does he think he is? You know, he's a public servant, whoever he is. It's this instinct that is being shown already in the Oedipus story. But in fact, the person he kills without knowing, you say, a good defense lawyer would get him off. He'd be innocent in a law court. He was simply defending himself. Turns out to be his daddy, and the king of Thebes. Because Apollo or his parents, whom he thought were his parents in Corinth, didn't bother to tell him that he was an orphan and they adopted him, and he had come from Thebes, where the daddy and mommy had heard that one of their children was going to curse them or do something bad to them. So when they had a child, they sent it off with the shepherd to expose it, leave it out in the countryside to die, so they could never, kill them or marry them or do anything nasty. But the first shepherd had a good heart and didn't want to just let this baby die, so he gave it to his friend, the second shepherd, the one who comes last in the play. And this second shepherd said, I'll take it home to Corinth, where the king and queen are not having children. They'd be so happy to get him. But the king and queen, they don't want to pretend, they pretend he's their child. That never tells them. They never tell him who he really is. So he doesn't know who he is. He thinks he's their child. And when he hears this prophecy, kill his daddy, marry his mommy, the only rational, moral thing you and I are supposed to do at such a moment is to try to stay away from daddy and mommy. And then if they're going to force me to do it, that's their business. But I'm not going to be fatalistic, passive. I'm going to do my best. All right? And he does his best, trying to run away. Trying to run away from home, he winds up killing his true daddy. He comes into he meets the Sphinx there. Just for the story, and I'm having to do so many things in one thing. This Sphinx supposedly was the first curse that he liberated humanity from, the polis. The Sphinx, this monster, part of the divine world, sets a drop quiz for every handsome young man like you and me coming in and out of Thebes. What walks on 4 feet at dawn, 2 at noon, and 3 at dusk? But because they hadn't paid attention in their CVSP lecture, all right, none of them were able to answer the question. And so what would happen? The Sphinx would devour them in a sexual embrace, have sex with them, because that's what she wanted from them, and then kill them. You've heard of praying mantises? Any of you are biology students? Okay, well, this is the image of this particular divine being. What do what walks? None of them were able to answer it. So the Sphinx gives this drop quiz to Oedipus, who's now coming in, not knowing that he has killed the king of the city or that he was daddy. He's simply doing what his reason is telling him is best for him to do. He answers it. You see, he's being presented as the model of the best you can do with the limited reason you have. You are fundamentally blind. You cannot know the truth fully, but you can try to seek as much of it as you possibly can by doing your best to seek the truth at the cost of your life, to seek to do your best, to be a student, to do your best, to be a political leader. And please pay attention to how Sophocles presents Oedipus in the play. He presents him as the model of a democratic leader, concerned for the people, listens to the people. When they tell him to do something which he's convinced is going to cost him his life, he accepts to do it because he's the model of a democratic leader. So where is the arrogance and the pride? Only if we read into it because he got angry. He lost his temper. You know when he loses his temper? When he discovers that this plague, which is destroying Thebes, could have been stopped years ago, but Creon, the political leader, and Tiresias, the religious leader, who were in charge when the king was killed, didn't bother to do anything because well, they were tired. Read the text, it's all in there. All right? He cannot believe that human beings would do something like that to their polis, to their community. So of course he gets angry. If he doesn't get angry, he's not a human being. Anger, that's pride or bad character or something like that, or jumping to conclusions too soon. These are moralistic terms that you should try to avoid when you're reading tragic literature. Try to get the point here. You are in a limited world. You're going to make mistakes. You're blind, but you have enough sight. Do the most with it, and that's what life is all about, for yourself and for the human community, for the polis. So he saves the Thebes because soon in this orderly universe, the Sphinx can't appeal to somebody and say, oh, I want to stay. Khalas, that's part of the game. She's set, the rules have been set. He has answered the question. The plague is lifted. He comes into the city of Thebes. They acclaim him and they elect him king. What does he now later on think after he's met Creon and Tiresias and they didn't do what they should do? And Tiresias, the prophet, tells him, I know, but it's going to cause pain, so forget all about it. Forget all about it, and the plague continues to destroy Thebes, for God's sake. See, read it in context, read it in understanding. Don't just read it moralistically. You'll miss the whole point of the whole work about how it can speak to you and me today in this kind of challenging way. He does what he thinks is the most rational and the best possible way to do, but he's blind. His blindness is his arrogance. He cannot possibly know that his reason simply cannot know all of this. He's going to try. He discovers it, you see, by experiment. He now discovers my reason. I had too much confidence in it. So you people watching this play, remember, don't be overconfident in your reason. You're never going to be any better than Oedipus. But do your best as Oedipus does. Don't let that paralyze you and you become fatalistic and que sera sera, maktub, whatever words, whatever fatalistic ways you understand fate in any sort of way. This is this is what we're trying to get from him. He saved Thebes from the curse of the Sphinx, triumphant entering to Thebes, elected Tyrannus, awarded widow. Now he gets his mommy as his wife, not knowing that she's his mommy, all right? And now follows an ideal reign as leader and protector of the polis. Don't miss these points in the play, all right? Sophocles is telling you how he wants you to understand. You can then understand it any way you like. That's why great literature, you can. But first respect others. That's empathy, the way you would want to be respected. Try to understand it as much as possible in its own point of view. And then, of course, use it for all sorts of wonderful things. The story continues. He reprimands Creon and the Ancien Regime. He accuses them of criminal neglect, all right? Conspiracy theory, but it's not conspiracy theory. He's following the logic of the day. These were the leaders of the polis, and they did nothing. And so now this horrible plague is affecting them. Of course, so they must be, I spoiled their plot. They were going to take over. They assassinated the king. They assassinated the king, and they wanted to take over all power. All right, because he's responding to what he sees, but he's blind. All right, and therefore he thinks. But now, when he wants to do something about Creon, because he thinks they're going to try to assassinate him, the chorus representing the people in a democracy, all right, beg him not to do that. He says, "Okay, if that's what you want." That's what's going to happen, but it's going to cost me my life. This is pride. This is arrogance. All right. This is bad temper because the prophet who knows and won't tell because it's going to cause him pain. Habibi, ilwawa, busil bawawa. This whole suffering mentality that your main enemy in life is suffering. Therefore, live your life to intelligently. We'll see this with Lucretius when you come to Epicureanism. The main thing in life is avoid suffering. And use your mind to get the most you can get for number one, for yourself. That's what life's all about. Siduri, eat, drink, and be merry. All these people are all challenging this wishy-washy view of humans. What a Nietzsche, what a Christ will say, you make me sick, I vomit you, either be cold or hot. What Nietzsche later on will say, your whole society, your whole Christian society is making me sick because you're not doing anything that there's anything there that's worth following. This is the tragic world. The world of, yalla, get off your ass and do something for beyond your own nose and beyond yourself. Do it and do something for humanity. Because you are humanity. You can't be anything if your society is not that. So work for your society, but work for yourself at the same time. So Sophocles has him say, I'm going to do this for you, but also for myself. He's not pretending to be a goody-good, benevolent, altruistic fellow. He's a human. But the human, if he's intelligent, realizes how much he is connected to the welfare of the society, and therefore we'll see that's what life is therefore all about. That's what's going to give meaning. That's what's going to give me the only happiness I can have. All right? When you come to Plato and the rationalists, they will tell you, do that, but the good news is that if you really do that, you will also have the other type of happiness that you typically seeking. But this is the serious human happiness of having done your best, having made a difference. And sorry, I think I've gone over time, have I? I don't know. You don't have watches anymore, or clocks. I don't want to keep you beyond time because then you'll hate me even more than... Yeah, it's on time. Okay, I hope you get what you can get from this. That's all I was trying to get you to think about tragic as opposed to the normal way you think moralistically and rationalistically. But to think tragically, aesthetically, beauty, excellence, not seeking just a superficial happiness in life.